Hi, I'm back with another story. This one is about Joseph Mangley, who created me. He had this game that he had many different games that he would play with us, but I remember one game in particular. In one memory, I was a young child, I believe under the age of 10, and me and a group of, I don't know, 20 kids were left outside in the elements in a fenced in area. No food, no water, no shelter, just as kids left out there to the elements. It felt like a week went by. And I nicknamed him Joe the Mechanic because if I ever had a problem, whether it was my fault or not, he would fix my wagon and the problem would be gone. So Joe one day came in to that fenced in area. I believe all the other children also were under the age of 10. We were real little. But this was typical. This was something typical for us to go through in deep underground military bases. I'm not sure what project you would call this. Maybe it was Project Mannequin. Maybe it was when they were programming me to the 5 Ibis Boys. Maybe it was up in Nelson, Canada. Uh, maybe it was over in the UK. I don't know. I can tell you what it was like. You want a project name and a location? If you'd like to read my autobiography, please email me and I will respond with it to you. Heavenly Abba told me to give my autobiography. He never said I had to worry about the IRS or anything else, okay? He made it simple for me. So I wrote down my life's experience and I've drawn pictures, and I'm more than happy to share them with you. Joseph Mangley came into the fenced-in area, and he had a daisy with him, and he stood before us kids. And us kids had knelt down and seated ourselves on the ground. And he stood there, and he kept picking, he would pick a petal from the daisy, and he would say, "He loves me." And then he'd pick another petal, and then he'd say, "He loves me not." He'd pick a third petal. "He loves me." He'd pick a fourth petal. "He loves me not." He'd pick a fifth petal. "He loves me." He'd pick a sixth petal. "He loves me not." Until he went all the way around that daisy and he would get to the last petal. And he got to the last petal, and when he picked that last petal, it was, "He loves me not." And there I sat, and Joseph Mangley looked right at me. He did not look at any other child. He looked straight at me, and he started marching straight at me. He started to pass by the other children that were seated on the ground. And just before he took his last hit on his second to last step, right before he took his last step, suddenly he turned to his sharp left, put his foot down, taking his last step, and he grabbed the child closest to me. And he brought that child up to the front of the rest of us children. And I looked at that child, this square in the eyes, and that child was looking back at me. And that was supposed to be me. Joe was looking at me. He was supposed to grab me. That kid knew it. I knew it too. And that kid had, my blood ran cold, blood-curdling screams as Joe brought it up to before us, and he mutilated the child to death. This video is definitely going to get shadow banned because I should say things like unalive. And I should say things like CT instead of the full word. Please feel free to join me on internet radio. If you go to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean, and other major podcasting platforms, please look up Spirit Force and then scroll through the list and you will see my broadcasts. I don't have an exact set time to broadcast. I try to keep it on Thursdays, but I'm known to broadcast randomly. And I always do put up a link on Facebook, Gab, X, Instagram, YouTube. And you can also find my videos on Rumble, TikTok, and BitChute. Thank you for your time. I ask that you go before Heavenly Abba, test all spirits, and please research these topics for yourself. Fritz Springmeier wrote a book, something called to the effect of The Illuminati's Handbook to Creating the Ultimate Mind Control Slave. And when I read that, my jaw was on the floor. He was talking about the kids in the cages. And I believe that I'm an adult survivor of the things that Fritz Springmeier wrote about in his book. I reached out to him online. Thank you for your time. Again, my name is Holly Baglio. Holy Bag Alliance, was that a rough one to get through? And still, I'm using words I'm not supposed to. And speaking of which, I should put up a disclaimer, right? Because I'm not real. This video's not real. This is just satire and for entertainment purposes only.